How's my sound? Someone was saying last night that I was too loud.
It's kind of tinny.
Tinny.
So I had to reduce the volume.
Oh, okay.
Normally it's not like that, but at least not.
Yeah, I wonder what it is. Headphones are off, so it can't be that. Weird. Anyway, might be the computer. It's seeing a lot of action these days.
Yeah, can be. So how is your new dig? The new.
Oh, it's great. You know, it's so interesting because I'd never realized just how dark and dirty and depressing our offices were in the place. I mean, I have fond memories of the place, but after 10 years of working in a loading dock, literally, it's so wonderful to be in this bright, sparkling, clean office with views, and it's really great. And the economies of scale have kicked in because we're able to having all our stock with us in one warehouse, as opposed to being on 4 different levels and literally 20 different lockers. It's become, it's definitely a smarter way to work, I think. So it's ended up being the right thing.
Yeah, good. Well, I guess I still have some of the old vials, and now I have more.
Oh, okay. We'll figure it out. Yeah, if you can come by, that's great. Or if you take an internal retail delivery, you can just hand it over to the driver. Just whatever is easier for you.
Okay, fine.
But let's kick it off. It's 7 o'clock. Good evening, everybody. We don't have a lot of active video people tonight, but that's also okay. Let me just change the view so we can see more people. Yeah. I think what I'd like to suggest we do is kick off with 2 Pegaus. What I was saying to Goran earlier was, having tasted these 2 last week, I've never seen 2 wines that are better expressions of their vintage than these 2. You know, just by way of a quick recap, 09, certainly a hotter, more flamboyant year across the board in France. Very, very expressive of that characteristic, especially in Bordeaux. And 10, more of a classic structure, a lot more tannic architecture to the wines. And in fact, I would probably suggest that Domaines across the board were lower in 10 than they were in 9. And let's have a look at this and see if you agree with it in this context. Points-wise, I think it's a match between 96 and 98 points, the 98 points being for the 10. Definitely a reductive aspect to the 09. Yeah, the 10, a little bit cooler, a little bit calmer on the nose. I'm really attracted to the 10s. It's got this sort of cashmere, soft, silky kind of laid-back quietness on the nose, whereas the 9 is definitely more urgent, more demanding of attention. For me, that reductive aspect plays through on the palate as well. Hey guys, welcome. We're just tasting the 2 Pegaus at the moment, the 9 and 10. That's what I was saying, was that notion, that sort of organic, sort of farmyard kind of phenolic seems to play definitely in on the palates on the 9. Recommended cellaring from Wine Advocate for this was 2015 to 2025. So we smack bang in the middle. For me right now, comparing that 9 and 10, the 9 is definitely more, energetic, possibly a fraction more simplistic than the 10. For me, the 10 is just, everything is precisely on point, in the right place, beautifully constructed. Drinking window for the 10 is 2016 up to 2030, and I can really see that. I always have a bit of a bugbear with wine critics and their drinking windows, especially from the New World, where they make these huge proclamations of wine being drinking, 30-year drinking windows, and that, in my opinion, don't have a chance of getting there. But in this instance, I completely agree that the Pegau 10 has just got this unbelievable structure and form, and it's going to travel. I can see it for going for another 10 years at least. There were some people on here tonight. I think Byron might have been there, or Alan was there. We did a tasting with one of our clients of 12 different years of Pegau, and I'm trying to think of the winners out of the 90s, but I think it was 96 and 97 were the two most impressive years. And for me, 96 and 97 in some ways follow here between 9 and 10. That 96 has the same kind of characteristics as 9, and 97 has similar characteristics in 10.
So Robert, I started buying them in 98, so I've still got 98s, and I've got virtually every vintage since then. And the 98s and 99s are still drinking very well.
Oh, that, okay. The 98 was just terrific. Would you agree, Alan, that in terms of, like, on the palate, the 98 is more of a rounder, more complete palate, and the 99 is more linear?
They're quite different. You put them side by side, and they're really different.
Yeah.
I missed the beginning, Robert. I was a bit late. Just, are we drinking them in any particular order? Or were
yeah. I sent a final link across to you guys. Let me see if I can upload the.
I saw a message from you with a picture on it, right?
Yeah. That's the one. What I wanted to do, just learning from last week's tasting, was look at the two Pegaus together, because they're such terrific expressions of vintage, and then wander through the rest, because the rest were all 9s.
Right, so this is 1 and 2, right?
Yeah. And then we'll look at the two Roties at the end.
Okay, thanks.
Man, I love your bicycle stand, Byron. I would be hopeless. I'd never be able to reach up there. Yeah, cherries, maybe some sort of sweaty charcuterie. And just farmyard everywhere in it. I'm not sure where the 9's going to travel in the long run beyond its representation now, whereas for me, the 10 is just so brilliantly good right now. I can see a longer path for it.
Robert, are you going to will these wines be available, and at what?
Yes, some of them. Yes, they're all on the second part of the marketplace, except for the Jamet, because I bought both bottles for tonight's tasting. The rest are all there. They're coming out of a collection of a really big collector. This is his first sort of dalliance with us. He's got a huge amount of vintage champagnes that are on the second part of marketplace as well. And I'm telling you, every single bottle that I've had from him so far is just immaculate. This notion of buying direct from the negotiants certainly pays off. I've got massive confidence in the quality of his wine. I got into enormous strife by only having 14 sets available tonight. I've got a lot of abuse from people. I mean, moving into this Beaucastel as the third one, the lower rated of everything here tonight. And for me, let's have a look at it anyway, at 95 points. I mean, I sound like a bit of a spoiled brat, but yeah. 94 points, sorry. I think the winning shot for me in jar 3 is the Beaucastel, is its texture. There's a beautiful silkiness that plays through, and it's very much a house style of Perrin. to do that. Everything that we're looking at tonight is by far and away in the majority of Grenache, and then Syrah Mourvèdre, and then up to another 11 different rats and mice varietals. But basically, of the CDPs, we're really looking at Grenache as the dominant expression, and then different for Rhone. Beautiful resolution in the Beaucastel. The length is impressive. It's not incredibly long, but it's long enough. The balance is good. I think the money shot is the soft silkiness. And I'm thinking of all the other pairing wines. You can trade back into the less expensive ones, and they all seem to have this kind of trademark expression. Drinking window here is 2011 to 2036, so fair spread. Decanter gives it 96 or 97 points.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful.
It is gorgeous, right? There's a kind of harmony about it, Goran, that I really, really like. And in fact, it's showing better than it did last week.
Okay.
With these wines, we're looking at so much flamboyance, sort of jazz fingers in terms of flavor and structure, all that kind of stuff. It's quite nice to see something that's just quiet and constructed, because as we work our way towards the Janasse, which is a favorite wine for me, but then you're really talking about flamboyance and over-exuberance, possibly in style. And also, for me, the detailing of the tannic structure is good. If you look at the Janasse next to it, it is just bigger, more expressive, more OTT. Masses of dark plums. Drinking windows in the Janasse are drinking as early as 12, and I agree, because I've actually drunk 16 and 17 Janasses this year, and they are drinking perfectly well right now. But definitely texturally as well. It's just a bigger wine, right? It's got its elbows up.
No, it's beautiful, very impressive. Excellent.
For me, it's that the tannins are still really, really in the front of the game. I guess a couple of years ago, this might have presented as being a little too brusque, a little too kind of aggressive. Whereas the Beaucastel is just silky and round.
Robert, how long do you think? I mean, we all like to drink very old clarets or Bordeaux. How long will these wines develop? What's interesting for me is I think that the Beaucastel. I've said this before, and I've been so wrong. And I've said no, Beaucastel's done, and then you taste it years and years afterwards, and it does improve. For me, looking at this lineup of the first four, for me, the most finished and the most expressive of the wines is the 10 Pegau and the Beaucastel. They're just drinking beautifully well right now. I would suggest that the Pegau will probably travel further than Beaucastel. If I was long on Beaucastel 10s, Al, have you got any Beaucastels 10s? Did you buy? Have you? So I got you mid-swallow. Because I would argue that the Beaucastel 9 is probably something that's at cruising altitude. The question is how much further go on. If I was long, I'd be drinking in the next 3 years. That would be my view.
Yeah, to be honest, I have a case, but I haven't opened it yet. So
okay.
The first one I'm tasting out of I have the.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
I've been buying fairly routinely Pegau, Beaucastel, Chateau de Beaucastel since 2000 thereabouts. But I'm not open to many of them. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the resolution, the relatively early resolution in the Beaucastel. I'm dying to taste the 10 to see how that compares, but so far no one's given me any to sell that I can buy and taste with you guys. Yeah, I'm glad we did the Janasse after the Beaucastel. It's interesting how that reductive component still lingers in the 09. It's no question that it's there. Really love that Pegau 10. Oh. What are the, Alan, what are the labels that are above this Beaucastel? What are their super shishi labels? They do a blonde and a brunette, but it doesn't seem, that seems quite expensive, but it doesn't seem to get the same sort of ratings as the estate blend. I haven't done enough research on that. I think like the Domaine, like the Pegau, there's a super special one right on top. And with Pegau, that's the one that doesn't get 100, the board of directors going to a tailspin. It's just, I think it has the history of being the highest, most awarded wine in Rhone.
It's several $100s a bottle more than this.
Yeah.
But I've got a thing with Rhone wines. I've tasted quite extensively across the catalogue because I like Rhone wines, but I've come to the conclusion that there's no point in paying $300 or $400 for a Rhone wine that's released, because these ones really are so good already, and the incremental difference in taste quality. Yeah,
it's not there.
Really, it's a curve which has gone flat already over this. All that's going up is price.
Yeah.
You have to be really, 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 really good with wine tasting to be able to tell the difference on blind.
Really, mate. So if you put that Pegau, the black label, I don't know the full name of it, against this Reserve, you're suggesting that they're almost similar in quality.
It is a little better, right? But you have to ask yourself, is it worth several $100 more that you're paying for it per bottle?
Yeah.
My view, the answer is no.
Yeah.
But I think about these things. I do a price quality trade-off.
No, it makes sense. Byron and I spent some time in New Zealand a few years ago, and I remember it was one of the trips I actually saw the most amount of wineries that I did with Byron, and it struck me for the very first time how the New Zealand Pinot producers do the same thing. They all have this ultra super special multi-times leverage Pinot that's only for sale if you buy X number of other wines, or you're a .com billionaire. And I've always felt the same thing, that incremental. I'm thinking of things like I better not mention names, but there's a lot of guys who do that, and I've always felt a little wanting after tasting them.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's I learned that a long time ago in my wine testing experience. There's a branding exercise as well. Clearly, they put more effort, but honestly, often it's not different blending. It's just selected barrels.
Yeah, it's better
across the barrels, and then they will decide which are the better barrels. They won't make a different blend. The grapes are not coming from different parts of the vineyard.
But I'm thinking of, there's one in Victoria, Mainridge. Yeah, and Mainridge does a secret score thing, but I think it's called the half acre or something. And a couple of months ago, I did the half acre with their other releases, and holy hell, it was worth it. But in that instance, they were actually arguing that it's coming from a finite plot, a sort of monopole that is a particular expression. And for me, that seems to hold water, as opposed to someone saying, yeah, these are our 8 barrels and please give us $400 for it instead of the 150.
Right. Yeah.
I think for me, the Beaucastel takes the Janasse, which is interesting because I'm such a fanboy for Janasse. Mainly because of its resolution. Trying to think of that phrase that Parker uses, cherry cola, something like that. And I get that kind of influence out of the Janasse.
Yeah, so far the Janasse is my favorite. But
you like it?
Yeah, very much. So far, it's my favorite, definitely.
I'm looking for a window. They're saying 2012 to 2030. Geez, that's a broad spread. It's interesting because for me, often with the Janasse, with the more current releases, the 16s and 17s, they often show more of that tobacco leaf kind of action, and I'm not seeing that in particular out of this vintage.
It's funny. I hate smoking, and I love
Tobacco.
smoking whiskey and smoky wines.
I remember once going to what's now Zimbabwe, Rhodesia. I was very little. I must have been 6 or 7, and we went to we were on a school trip and went to a tobacco farm, and I was amazed by the smell of those leaves as they were aging. And it's a smell that I'll always remember because I came from a non-smoking family. I had no idea about tobacco at all, but it's something that I'll always remember. So they're saying 2030 for the Janasse and 36 for the Beaucastel. Yeah, I agree. I actually think that Beaucastel is going to outlive the Janasse. Big points for that for me.
So if I look at the rating of the Pegau 2010 at 98,
yeah,
and the Janasse at 95. I find that the rating of the 2010 Pegau is a little bit generous, the 3 points more.
Yeah,
but it depends so much on.
Yeah, it depends time, day that they're tasting. But also, Goran, I would argue that the Pegau 10 in structure and form and personality is very different from Janasse. It really is chalk and cheese. I'm now desperate to try the Janasse 10 to see if it shows that same sort of incremental change in quality.
Mm.
If anyone online has a few bottles of that, I'd be more than keen to throw my heart down.
These are all wine advocate ratings, and they reflect the palate.
Yeah,
it's clearly a wine advocate palate here, because I would rate them probably differently to this. But they're all nice. I mean, to be very clear.
Yeah, sure. Who do you follow for Rhone? That Rhone Ranger guy?
Yeah.
I quite like how he writes, but I don't really.
I've discovered over time that my palate is more to the British writers than it is to the American writers.
Okay, so Jan's.
Yeah, the people that she has on her website, the Berry Brothers, and the Justerini wine buyers.
Yeah.
Just over time, I've learned that my palate probably matches closer to the way they taste the wines than I do. But it's not usually a huge difference.
Alan, you're 100% right about that, because in Australia, if I follow the mainstream Australian critics now, you can see the guys who have delegated the responsibility to the various regions. You can see by the way they write and the way they rate. And some guys have this massive preference for Western Australian Cabernet, and it shows in their ratings. And so one has to discount that. There was a debate online last night about the suckling ratings being so inflationary, particularly for Tuscany at the moment. And it's a slippery slope that really is.
No, I agree. I find that the James Suckling's ratings are ridiculous. I mean, inflationary is the right word for them.
Yeah.
And I've often wondered why he's doing that, because there's an enormous number of 98s, 99s, and 100s that do there, and I think it's to build brand.
Yeah.
And less about absolutist quality levels. So I've been to discount any. Leads with a James Suckling rating.
Well, the point that one person made was that it's done in order to get more coverage, so that charlatans like me who are trying to sell a wine are going to chase that number because it gives it exposure.
No, it does. It gives more coverage, and it gives access for the wine writers.
Yeah.
Jasper Morrison once told me, I was in a group with him, that he didn't have very high regard for Jancis Robinson's taste palette for Burgundy.
Really? Jesus.
Yeah. And so I figured there might be just a bit of rivalry, but that's not the point. The point is, she has assembled, I think, a pretty good and wide range of writers underneath her who specialize in the different regions, who are very knowledgeable and whose palettes, for a reason, conform more to the way mine works.
I'm particularly enamored with the way she supports Eastern European producers. Like, there was something that came out today on Crete, just these areas that just aren't getting any kind of global exposure at all. And the mere fact that she devotes a percentage of her purple pages to that, I think it's a really extraordinarily positive thing to do.
It's actually thanks to her that I started drinking Greek white wine.
Oh, really? I thought it might be because of George.
No, it wasn't George. It was.
Hi, Robert. I'm sitting at the back.
Hey, darling, how are you?
Fine, thanks.
Excellent. I'm so excited about Sunday. Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Oh, what happened about Sunday?
No, I think he didn't say sorry. He said stoked, right?
Oh,
Yeah, I said I'm so excited about having lunch.
I actually thought you said sorry. Meaning
No.
She's missed something. But.
Yeah, it's my drunken South African accent.
No.
Yeah, very nice.
Well, I guess maybe we should lean towards the Roties. So I'm so excited. This is the very first time I've ever tasted a Jamet. I've never had a Jamet. It's been a thing of mystery and a unicorn label. So it's a first tonight. And when I was opening the wines earlier, it was very hard for me not to actually have a little taste first. So if you have a look at the lineup, we're doing the E.Guigal at the end, the 97.0, and the Jamet as the fifth glass. So for those who aren't super into Rhone, we're now looking at expressions that are Syrah dominant rather than Grenache dominant. There's going to be a lot of influence. Sorry, I'm going to do my gorillas in the mist thing. I've just made a mess. So we're looking at stuff that has Viognier, Syrah, Viognier as a dominant kind of classicism. These wines are going to be more expressive, higher altitude. I guess if I was comparing north to south, there's more flamboyance, I would guess, in the Rotie. That Jamet is good. It's very seldom that I get black pepper and perfume in one, on one nose, and they're both there in equal parts. It's really impressive. Oh my goodness. I've lost track of the ratings on this. I think the Jamet's 96 and the E.Guigal, the Employee, is 97. Beautiful balance in the Jamet. Oh. It's just hovers. Really brilliant balance. It's a nose like no other I've ever smelled before out of Rhone.
I think the Cote Rotie is such an interesting wine.
Yeah.
Right, you rarely get it. You rarely drink it in restaurants or even at home.
Yeah.
But I do like it, and I think here I do prefer the last one, the Dampuy.
The Dampuy.
Yeah, I think it's. I mean, these ratings, 97 is a high rating, but it's really good.
You're right, Goran. There's something more finished about the Employee. There's something more resolved. There's a beautiful glossy texture to it. you're right. Everything's kind of tied into itself. There's a sense of seamlessness about it that you don't get in the Jamet.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
But I am very partial to Cote Rotie, but I
Yeah.
don't drink it enough.
Yeah.
We never drink enough, do we? Especially these days in
Mm.
lockdown. What did you think, by the way, about the decision today to live?
I'm really pleased about it, just because I know so many restaurateurs who are just, they're against the ropes, right? So anything is better than nothing. So I really applaud that. I think it's great. It's great for restaurants. At least gives them a chance, at some sort of lifeblood. And as far as I'm concerned, the more conservative the government is with this damn disease, the better. Let's get it right. I mean, the one point that Lawrence Wong made so clearly today was, this is all about vaccinations. But once we've got the right number of vaccinations, we can take a more sensible view. And I think that's the right view.
Yeah. I would have hoped for the number 5 limit, but
Yeah.
We have to wait another month.
Yeah.
I think.
It's okay, it's really not much of a sacrifice compared to what the rest of the world's going through. I'm all over it. The thing that I'm just befuddled by is Phuket. There is no ways I'd go to Phuket now on vacation and have a sandbox holiday. It's just absolutely no way.
And even worse, if you would be living in Europe, you would not even think about leaving a European summer going to
exactly.
But I mean, unfortunately, as much as I love Thailand, we lived there for 4 years.
Oh, did you? Oh, okay.
Yeah. But that was, a million years ago, in 1988. So, but as much as I love it, it's a little bit of a mess.
Yeah. Well, thank you, guys. Great. I think we've got another 10 bottles or something that's going onto the marketplace of this. It's worth every dollar. It's great. There's a bunch of Australians on the call, and I'm not sure how you agree. Like, when you taste this E.Guigal and you think about what an RWT or a Grange costs relative to the price of this, my money is going to fall towards E.Guigal, just in terms of its just star quality. I think it's just so fabulously constructed, beautifully made. And there's a lot to be said for great provenance.
Yeah. It sure is.
Kirampui is very nice.
Mm.
Really. So I haven't had the 2009, but this is really good.
Oh, the finish is just superb. It's just perfect. I've saved some of the Southern Rhone ones, and now I feel like I shouldn't have. It's a bit hard to go back to Pegau afterwards.
Oh, it's a great collection, and thank you again.
Oh, you're welcome.
For putting all this together. It's just great to taste them.
I have another collector who has a whole bunch of 07 Barolos, and I'm going to roll that out. A similar sort of person who buys direct and has collected large amounts over the years, and I'm going to use similar tasting with his stuff, because I have such little exposure to 15-year-old Barolo. It'd be amazing to see what he's got. Oh, E.Guigal. I'm trying to find out the price. Let me see if I can find it. Because I reckon that's worth $300. I don't know what we're charging for it. Let's see if I can find it.
The price for what, Robert?
Well, that's the E.Guigal. All right. The asking price is $255, but it's a spread. He's going to drop his price by another $50 during the sale. So,
sorry, Robert, you're talking about the Pegaus or the
E.Guigal, the last one, the M.P.
The E.Guigal, yeah.
Yeah.
250. Yeah.
So his floor is.
You can buy those for under $200.
Yeah, his floor is 190, which is probably where it's going to stop.
But that, frankly, for a 2009 that price, that's worth the price.
Yeah, yeah.
What are you drinking? You compare that to Burgundies or Bordeaux's or the
Oh, God, yes.
for sure.
I think the thing that appeals to me the most is its balance, and the fact that it's ready to drink. You know, I really like that, because so many other wines, you know, one buys and sells and tastes, it just doesn't have that characteristic about it.
So that is so true, and of course that vouches for a slightly higher price as well.
Yeah.
It's difficult to get wines which have some kind of maturity, I think. And drinking them too early is just a shame.
Well, especially for people who are here on a finite timeline, right? They've got 2 or 3 years. There's no point in buying something that takes 10 years to come right.
No.
But happily, Byron has a fantastic collection. He's been buying for 20 years, and he's on this call. But thus far, he's never, ever agreed to share the love with his collection. Never, ever.
Maybe now he will.
That's so not true. That is so not true. We're on here with Augustine, right? He and I, and you've all been involved as well. Remember all those consecutive vintage Pinot events?
Yes, I remember those.
6, 7, 8.
Yeah, they were fantastic.
Right,
Yeah.
so we share.
Yeah, it's true. No, it's true. I was just poking the dragon. I need to ask Augustine, because he's a huge collector of Rockford, and I've been harassing him for years now to have a look at his Rockford vertical. I've been nagging. So maybe we can pin you down, Augustine. Maybe this is the moment.
Robert, I think you should go with Kuntal.
Really? So I should talk to Kuntal.
Definitely. He's relocating to London, so he needs to get rid of his stock in Singapore.
Oh my goodness, maybe we can help him with that. It's true, actually, because he's just taken storage with us. So that's true. He is going. Yeah. I hadn't flagged that when he wrote me. So I think he's got an idea that he might come back. I think that's his thought process. But I'll still have a go. I'll see if I can get him to bend.
So what would have been nice to see tonight, Robert, was View Telegraph amongst those CDPs.
Yes, it would have been.
That's what's missing.
Because that's the other sort of premium CDP year on year, right?
Yeah.
And it also represents really good buying. I don't think it's a particularly expensive wine, really. I think 140, 150 on release at the most for View Telegraph. I think it's something like that.
Yep.
And then there's the Lalas, but I've only drunk about 3 Lalas in my life.
They need 20 years, right?
Yeah.
So just leave those things alone.
Yeah.
Come back in another decade and we'll look at the 10s, right?
Yeah. I remember BC before COVID. I was in Hong Kong with clients, and one of the blokes took me to lunch at Chef's something. I don't know, some fancy place. And they ordered a Lala, and it was so stuffed. It was just completely wrecked. It was on the ropes. It had obviously traveled around the world 3 times before it found its home. And I felt really badly for it, because it was definitely not the right expression of what those, I think it was Turk. I think that was the one we had, and it was just not anywhere close to what it should be. And poi, geez, I'm all over that. It's actually recalibrated things for me in Rotie. It really has. It's gorgeous. Yeah, it's kind of unfair going back to these Grenaches, right? They just seem a little clumsy after the Roties. There's a kind of,
I know about clumsy, Robert. I think it's different expressions, Grenache versus Shiraz.
yeah.
These are very good expressions of Grenache. I like the taste of Grenache.
Well,
I think these are good expressions of that. But these ones, I think many of us, or me at least,
yeah.
have grown up with a very different understanding of Shiraz.
Yes,
In
definitely.
the last 10 years or so, when I really started drinking cold weather or cool weather, or
Yeah.
Rhone Shirazes, then I really appreciated how good and subtle the grape can be, because
Yeah.
you're used to Australian or South African Shiraz, which is
Yeah.
in the face.
Subtlety is the right word, Alan. It really is. And it's the thing that defines the Northern Hemisphere and Southern Hemisphere with Shiraz.
Yeah.
For me, with the Empori, there's almost like a minerality about the wine. There's a pure, really clean, clear stamp in it that I have a hard time finding similes for. I'm not sure I've ever encountered it before. Certainly something I could drink all night long. And my business partner, Lou, always defines that as the ultimately important wine. If you can drink it all night, it's the right wine to drink.
I think maybe it's unfair to look at
Yeah,
Northern Rhone 09
Correct.
versus
yeah,
Northern Rhone 09. I think
Yeah.
the 10, I've still got a little sip of the Pegau 10,
yeah,
and it's probably the one that stacks up best against the Roties,
yeah.
stylistically.
Yeah. You know what, Brian? I'm thinking about the Grenaches out of Priorat and northern Spain, the cooler climate Grenaches. For me, they really take these CDPs. Admittedly, they're all 100% varietals, as opposed to being 70% or 65% Grenache. They just have this sort of leaner kind of focus about them that appeals to me more these days than the sort of warmer southern Rhone expressions. I mean, it's unfair, but that's certainly as a style, it's something that I kind of lean into more, I think, these days. Do you remember Martin Gomez, the guy who wrote his doctoral thesis on Grenache? I often say to people that, geez, I wish I knew him now, 12 years later, because I've drunk so much more Grenache than I had when I knew Martin, because he was clearly a fanboy for Grenache on a big scale out of Spain. It turns out that he's bought a property in the same place that I have an apartment in Spain, so we may still come full circle and be having Grenache nights.
There will be nothing wrong with that.
Exactly right. I'm a bit scared to go back to the 9 Pegau because it's probably going to look even more flabby after the Roties. You're right, the expression of the 10 is the closest. You're right. That kind of sharpness of definition. Is anyone on the call had other Jamets, other vintages of Jamet?
Augustine has.
Have you? Do you have a favorite, Augustine?
Chance, definitely 2017, 18 Jamet. In fact, the 17 is drinking very.
Really? So soon?
Yeah, so early.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm loving my new background, by the way. It means I don't have to do the dishes every day. It's fantastic. For the last 18 months, bloody hell, there's a tasting. I've got to wash everything up and put it away.
Which part of the world is it?
Well, I think it's Piedmont. I think it kind of looks like Piedmont in the autumn. What happened was I did a corporate tasting for 50 software engineers. And they said, no, we're not looking at your grater in the background. we got to change this. So literally, as we did the tasting, someone took over my computer and realigned it and gave me a background because there was no ways I could get it to work. It was just beyond my understanding.
Mine too. But anyway, it looks.
But it's such a relief because normally I do these Wednesday, Thursday, Fridays. So I'm rushing home and the place looks like shit and I've got to like clean it up and make it look sensible. So I'm very, very pleased with the background. Ellen, I like yours, that sort of semi-unfocused background. Is that that's fantastic.
You be glad you don't see the rest
Yeah,
of my little office here on top of the house.
It's a feature of all of these things. You can blur the background, so you don't have to put an artificial background or a picture behind you. You just the details are not clear. So,
do you think it would blur out my unwashed dishes? That's my only concern. Like the coffee cups, would it blur my coffee cups out? And unwashed dishes. That's the important.
Well, it would blur them out that people wouldn't know what they were, right? But
Okay.
if you arrange them neatly, it could look artistic.
I'll just say they're art pieces. I'm going to look into that definitely.
Right.
Yeah, we look forward to it next time.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
This whole IT thing is crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. Absolutely. Robert, I have to leave you. Thank you so much again for.
It's getting quite late anyway. Yeah. Well, guys, thank you so much for tonight. It was fantastic to drink with you. I will write you all when we have a similar opportunity again. So I'll give you the opportunity to get involved ahead of the curve because these things are too popular. But thank you so much, and I hope to be drinking with you all again soon.
All right. Cheers. Thanks very much.
Cheers. Take it easy. Bye. Good night.
Robert, have a great
Welcome.
weekend.
Thank you very
Bye.
much.
Bye-bye.
Good night, Takashi. Good sense.
He's talking to you.
Good sense may live.
Cutscenes.
May live. Mindar.
Work.
She says work.
Look, okay, that's fine.
That's not her. She's not the best at that language, right?
I thought, yeah, I know it's not the best, but for me, it's the language I like the most from being South African. For me, it's like it's the thing that it reminds me the most about being South African is Afrikaans. I love
This is Oriental.
Darling, your accent's worse than mine.
Hello. She claims you can speak Afrikaans. She can't. Frankly, take it from me, she can't. And her accent is atrocious.